Welcome to the Insightful Professor. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to download and install SQL Developer and then how to set up a connection to a database. So the first thing we need to do is to go to Oracle website, the Oracle Technology Network. I have the browser already at that site, and you'll notice the URL that we have up here. You can simply type in otn.oracle.com and you can gain access to the site. For those of you who have installed Oracle Express Edition following the instructions in another video on our channel, it's the same site. We're just going to a slightly different path. We will again go down to where it says under Essential Links, Software Downloads. And as we go here, what we're going to be doing is looking not for database, but we're going into a different category. The category is going to be the developer tools. So we see under developer downloads, we have database as we saw before, but this time we're going to developer tools. So if you click on that link, it'll bring you to the location where we can find SQL Developer. Simply click on SQL Developer. And here we are. Now, same process as we saw in the video that demonstrated how to install the Express Edition. You must first accept the license agreement, and then you look for the version that you want to download. The latest version is actually version 18.2. So that's what we'll get, but there are a couple of different options here. We have Windows 64 with the Java Development Kit included, and also Windows 32 and 64-bit. It requires that you have the JDK version 8 installed already, and then a couple of others if you're dealing with the Mac, the Linux, and kind of a general install. I'm going to go with the 64-bit Windows with the JDK 9 already included. So I click on the download, and it asks me to sign in. Again, this is the same as if you had watched the previous video. You'll need an account. So if you created an account to download and install the Oracle Express Edition, you can use that same account. If you don't have an account, you'll have to click on the Create Account here and go through a simple little dialogue to establish an account with Oracle. There's no charge for this. Oracle will keep in touch with you and can send you some emails regarding other software that they have. If you'd like to opt out of that at some point, you're free to do that. So again, it's just an opportunity to kind of stay in touch with Oracle, but also this account can be used for other software. For those of you who have already downloaded the database, here's a second opportunity to use the account. Now I've already downloaded the software, so I'm going to proceed to the next step. When you get the software, it's going to come in a compressed file. You may have noticed on the screen that it was over 400 megabytes in size. So it's a pretty good size file. Here's the file that I downloaded, SQL Developer-18.2 and so forth, and it's in a compressed format, a zip format. So you'll have to expand this or unzip it. Again, with Windows, we can right-click on this and simply do an extract all, specifying the destination, and then we can extract all of the files. Okay, I've already done that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up here and show you what is achieved by doing the extraction. So we have this other folder here. Now this does not have the .zip. This is the extracted file. And if you expand this, it looks like it's pretty small, just one folder, but if you expand that, there's a lot to this. Now, I'm going to install this on another system. So what I've done is I've done the download, I've done the extraction. Now I have this file here. I'm going to copy this to the machine onto which I'm going to do the installation. Okay, here's the machine where I'm going to do the installation. And if I expand the file folder, we'll see that I've placed this file, the result of the extraction from the zip file, into the C drive of this local machine. So now I'm ready to go. If I expand this, And if we scroll down through the folder, what we're looking for is a file called SQL Developer, which is an application file. So it's a SQL Developer exe. It's an executable. This is the one that we're actually going to run in order to start up the front-end tool and then subsequently connect to the database. So let's go ahead and run this. I'll double-click, and the execution of SQL Developer has begun. Now this will take a couple of moments for this to fire up because this is actually using Java. Remember, we downloaded it with the JDK, and if we had chosen a different option, a JDK is still required. So SQL Developer is written in Java, so it takes a little bit of time to fire this up. So I'll close the browser and we can focus on what's happening here. I'll pause the video and come back when it's complete. Well, it's not quite complete, but I wanted to bring to your attention a point that some of you may encounter, not necessarily now, because this could be your initial installation, but at some point in the future. You may or may not have noticed when I had the Windows Explorer open, I showed you the folder with the SQL Developer 18.2, but there was another version of SQL Developer sitting before that, SQL Developer 4.0.3. I had that already installed and operational on this machine, and I'm just bringing that to your attention because if you're doing an upgrade and get a later version of SQL Developer down the road, you may encounter this. It's actually kind of a neat idea. What happens is if you already have an existing version of SQL Developer installed, when you attempt to install another one, it says, hey, you've already got connections and various settings. Do you want me to import those into this environment? I'm just showing you this dialog so you're aware that this may come up at some point in the future. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say no, because what I want to do is I just want to show you kind of a base or bare bones install. But clicking yes is a nice option because you then don't really have to reconfigure the environment. You're kind of continuing to use what you already had been using. So I'll click no and continue the installation process. Now, do you want Oracle to track your activity with this? I say no, especially because I'm not really on a real machine. I'm using a virtual machine. So I'll simply uncheck that and then dismiss the dialog. Now, at this point, SQL Developer has been installed, and what's happening here is it's still kind of tweaking the environment as it's doing its final configuration. While this is finishing up, I'm going to go into SQL Developer. I'm in SQL Developer. I'm going to go into SQL Plus. And I'm going to open up SQL Plus, and I'm going to show you, and if you've been watching videos on my channel, you're already familiar with this. I'm going to connect as a user named student that we created in an earlier video. And again, I'll just show you my password is Oracle. The host string is the name of the database to which I'm connected, and I'm using Express Addition, and when that's configured, the host string is set at XE. So here's my username of student, password of Oracle, all uppercase, and the host string is XE. And I'm in. Okay, one other thing I'll show you very quickly is I'm going to select the names of the tables that this particular user has in the schema. And we've got a handful of tables. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is we're going to use this user to establish a connection to the database using SQL Developer. So let me dismiss this and go back to SQL Developer. Now, notice it has found a database. What I'm going to do is go to this Connections pane, and I'm going to click the plus sign. And this is how I initiate creating a new connection. The connection, I'm simply going to call it student. This can be any name you want. Then comes the username. The username must match the name of a database user or database account. The password, type it in exactly as it exists in the database. Remember, it's case sensitive. For security purposes, you would normally not click Save Password. I'm going to click it here because it's kind of a training environment. And what will happen is SQL Developer will remember that password And when I attempt to do a connection later on using SQL Developer, it won't prompt me because it already knows what it is. But if you don't have this checked, it will prompt you, a much more secure type of connection. Now, the name of the machine we're on, it's the local host. That's good enough. But if you were connecting to another machine, you would actually need to somehow get the network name and pop that in here. The port for the database is always 1521 as the default port. And in this case, we're connecting to XE. It's already set up for that. If you were connecting to another database, you would probably be using a service name and put the name of that. But the way it's configured on this machine is this is the local host, and it's port 1521, and the name, the SID, the service ID, is XE. Now, to see if I've got everything right here, I click the test button, and it attempts to establish a connection to the database. Over in the lower left, it's indicating success. That means I have everything correct. So I'm then going to now say save, and when I save, this will update over in the connections pane, adding this connection. I'll then also click connect, and we'll establish a database connection. So we're now going to be talking to the database through this as a front-end tool rather than using SQL+. So now I've connected. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is simply say select asterisk from course, and we saw that that was one of the tables that I had, and I fire this up, and it sends the query over to the database. It runs, and here we are. We're good to go. I have the 14 rows from the course table. One other thing that's kind of interesting to take a look at here is when I expand into connections pane, student, there's a node that says tables. And if I click on that, this is a direct connection to the system catalog, to the metadata. And what it's doing is it's telling me the names of the tables. And here I've got the course table, and here are the columns. And sure enough, that's what it says here. Pretty neat capability. There's a lot you can do with SQL Developer. The goal of this video was to show you how to get it installed and also how to set it up to make a database connection. Now, in the event that you're all done, you can right-click on Student and say Disconnect, and that will close out the connection. This activity window here, worksheet window, stays open. You can dismiss that, and that's kind of independent of your connection to the database. So now notice Student is just like a hollow disk here. There's nothing. But when I click on Student, double-click, notice there's a plug. The little plug is a visual aid to show you that you are connected to the database. And again, when I right-click, I can bring up a menu and say Disconnect, and it's unplugged. I'm no longer connected. Now that's pretty much it for using SQL Developer, or at least for setting it up, I should say. Now, hopefully you found this video to be useful and informative to you, and if so, offer some comments. And also, please consider subscribing to the channel. Simply click on the little owl icon that's displayed at the end of the video. There's no charge for the subscription, but it'll give you a chance to kind of keep apprised of when we make some changes and post new videos. And once again, thanks for watching.